Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm Jim, and unfortunately, it's just one Mono this week. I guess that's what Mono means. My partner, unfortunately, until ESPN or one of the major sports channels picks up our show for national syndication, we got to work for a living. So my partner's not with us this week. Sends his regrets and looks forward to being on the show with us next week. So let's jump right into it. A lot of stuff going on. Busy weekend in sports. It's been a busy week. And our first segment, of course, is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Haverstraw, New York. And they've been a loyal supporter of the show, obviously, and we thank them very much and hope they're all well. And let's jump right into the mix. And I'm going to start off because of the four major sports, we got one champion already, right? The NHL season concluded. And NHL Finals was Tampa Bay and Dallas. And I know a lot of people like Dallas, and they had a great team. I liked Tampa Bay because I thought their goaltending, which normally, they say defense wins championships in football. Well, goaltending wins it in hockey, and Vasilevsky of Tampa Bay just was outstanding and, better than the goalie for the Dallas Stars. And that gave them the title. And we mentioned it last week. We happy to hear that John Cooper, a graduate of Hofstra University out in Long Island, won his first Stanley Cup. So it really was. I mean, I think hockey did it great. The playoffs were outstanding. And I can't emphasize enough, these guys are absolute warriors. I mean, they played literally an overtime game and then had to come back the next night and play again. And they don't get as much rest for some reason as the NBA, but they persevered and they won their second Stanley Cup, and congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think overall, you got to give two thumbs up to the NHL. The whole bubble concept in Toronto and Edmonton worked out well. Nobody got COVID and so forth. So in this crazy time, they did it great, and they put on an awesome show. And congratulations again to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who hoist, which arguably could be the most prestigious trophy in all the sports, the Stanley Cup. And like I said, these guys just come and play and play and play. Nobody misses games. They can lose teeth. It's awesome to watch. And as we brought up before, there's not a lot of asterisks you can put on the NHL season because they pretty much played a full season, and this was the playoffs. So it seems a little bit different than the makeup of the way Major League went at it, where there was 16 teams, which is an awful lot of teams to make Major League Baseball playoffs. But it really was. It was awesome, great show, and congratulations to Tampa Bay. So let's move on to, obviously, another NBA Finals for LeBron James, right? Hard to believe. It's his 10th. His record is 3-6 in NBA Finals, but this year, and I've said it all along, they were going to the finals. When they decided that he wanted Anthony Davis to play on that team, and that's what they were missing to win an NBA championship, and they went out and got him, pretty much forced the hands of wherever he was in the Pelicans, right? And they're up 2-0 on the Heat, and I don't see any signs of letting up, to be quite honest with you. Watched the game last night. It's not all that exciting because they're just a better team. They got more weapons than Miami. I really do like the play of Butler and this kid Hero, youngest player to ever start an NBA Finals game. That's big news. 20 years old the kid is. He looks like he's 15. But they're up. They're going to win. He's going to be 4-6 in the NBA Finals, and he's going to win his fourth NBA championship. I said it all along. I thought on the Eastern Conference they wouldn't be playing Miami. That was kind of a surprise to me, to be quite honest. But I thought the Celtics or the Bucks or somebody was going to be there to challenge them. But they're up to nothing. They could probably win this series in 4 games. At worst, 5 games. But the way Anthony Davis is playing, I mean, he is the star of that show. And we talked a lot about the NBA and LeBron James. And the guy's in his 16th or 17th season. So still unbelievable. Still one of the top 3 players in the league. But this guy, Anthony Davis, I haven't had an opportunity to see him play as much as I have in the playoffs, but he is good. He really is good. And with Rajon Rondo, playoff experience, he's got a title, and he's the point guard, and he's kind of running the show and doing a great job. So I see them as clear path to the title, and that's gonna happen probably next week. I think Game 3 tomorrow and so forth. So they should wrap this up by Wednesday or Thursday of next week. So I guess congratulations in advance to them. And as far as the NBA goes, there was some fallout from the Clippers, who we thought was, certainly a title-worthy team. And they blew a 3-1 lead, and it cost Doc Rivers his job. I'm not so sure why it cost him his job. He's an unbelievably good coach. Excuse me. And but he got snatched right up by the Philadelphia 76ers, and there's a lot of openings in the NBA. So I think they got the best available coach. I know a lot of teams are talking to Tyronn Lue, and I'm not necessarily sure. I think he's on that kind of a Doc Rivers level, but he's probably going to get a job. Like I said, there's at least 4 or 5 openings for NBA head coaches right now, but Doc Rivers, and as Steve pointed out, this guy Joel Embiid, he does a lot of talking, and he's got a lot of talent, and they got some talent on that team. I think that's the right move for the Sixers. I think Doc Rivers, like I said, is a great coach, and he can figure out a way to work with Embiid and Simmons, and they got a lot of talent. So, look for them to make some noise in the playoffs because he's that good of a coach. And it didn't take long for the Sixers to scoop him up, that's for sure. One other NBA news, because it drives me crazy. I've always spoken about players when they come in the league and they're articulate and they're courteous with the press and so forth, and it just drives me crazy, this Kyrie Irving thing, because he came out and made some statements this week again, about he doesn't think they really need a head coach because he's got him and Durant. Well, those are 2 great players, no doubt about it. But like I said, Kyrie Irving only has 1 NBA championship, and he has it because he was on a team with LeBron James in Cleveland. But he kind of dissed him a little bit with his statements that, he was the go-to guy on every team he's played on except this Brooklyn Nets team, now that Kevin Durant's going to be his teammate. So it drives me crazy. He was polished, and now he's just arrogant and cocky and so forth. And he's changed. But to make statements like that, certainly even during the NBA Finals, A, was unnecessary, and B, a big diss to Steve Nash, the new head coach. So he's going to have his hands full with that guy. He just will not stop talking. It drives me crazy. So that's it for the NBA, pretty much, because that season's going to be over in 2 or 3 games, and I don't know what the schedule is for when they're going to start the season, but everything's going to be pushed back, obviously, because of the late start with the playoffs and the pandemic. But let's move on. And let's move on with our next sponsor is Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And I haven't spoken with Mike in a while, but I hope him and his family are well, and look forward to Catching up with those guys. I got a little cold going here because the weather's changed a little in the Northeast, so bear with me on that. So let's move on. Major League Baseball. I got to tell you, this has been very, very exciting. I actually did look at the format. I think 16 teams was a little too many, but I think they did the right thing by making it 2 out of 3 in the first opening round, which is, it's you can win and move on or go home for the season in 2 games, and that's what's happened. So it's been very, very exciting. And a couple of things I've noticed since the playoffs started, like I said, because you don't get to see a lot of these teams. It was a shortened season and so forth. But I was really impressed with a couple of the Chicago White Sox. Got a lot of good young talent, and so does the Atlanta Braves. So they're up and they're running. And the 2 out of 3 format was pretty good. So we got back to where we're supposed to be with 8 teams, and that's excellent. And we're going to see who moves on. I guess the surprise team obviously is the Miami Marlins after losing 105 games last year. And tip my hat to Donnie Baseball, the manager. Really did a great job to get his team to where they are, and they got to face the Braves now. So they're going to have their hands full for sure. See how long Cinderella Slipper stays on. But a couple other things in the National League, the Dodgers, and you got to watch out for them. As good as they are, I know that we even talked about Clayton Kershaw last week. What an unbelievable pitcher he is. But he hadn't had a lot of success in the postseason, but he threw an unbelievable game the other night. So the Dodgers kind of easily moved on. That was probably the easiest series to pick. And after San Diego was down in the first game to St. Louis, they bounced back and won 2 straight. And they got a good young team too. This kid, Fernando Tatis Jr., outstanding player. No question about it. And difference maker. And an interesting fact from that game, there were 9 pitchers used by the San Diego Padres. First time ever that 9 pitchers were used and shutting out an opponent. That's amazing. That's amazing. But they got good talent. That's a good matchup, the Dodgers and San Diego. I see the Dodgers obviously coming out of that, but good baseball to watch. Very good baseball. And on the American League side, I think it's pretty clear cut, right? We got the matchup we wanted to see, Tampa Bay against the Yankees. And, like I said, the Yankees are starting to hit again. And Garrett Cole has pitched a gem the other night. It was a good matchup. It was one of the marquee matchups of the season. It was Shane Bieber, probably the Cy Young winner, and Cole. And Cole came out on top. They were knocked around Bieber. Doesn't dismiss his Cy Young season. And again, I use that term in quotes because 60 games does not make a Major League Baseball season. But Garrett Cole is showing why the Yankees got him, and their bullpen could give them problems, and they've had problems with Tampa Bay. So I look for this series. You can flip a coin. I'm not really sure, but I'm not going to make a prediction. I like to see how Game 1 goes before I do that. But that's a great matchup. Those are the 2 teams, and they don't like each other, obviously. So the other series, Oakland, Houston, really neither one of them's going anywhere, so it really doesn't matter. Kind of pulling for Oakland because they haven't won nothing in a long time, and everybody's down on the Astros, and I've kind of gotten on board with that by seeing some of the statistics their guys had through the 60-game season. Not good. Not good at all. And these are guys that usually hit 300 and a lot of home runs, and that didn't happen. So, again, maybe there was some credence to this whole cheating scandal. But it sure seems like it. But Major League Baseball is heating up, and looking forward to some good matchups. I'd love to see the Yankees Dodgers, of course, in the series. This is a tradition so many times, and we're going to talk about that rivalry a little bit later on in the show. So that's happening, baseball. But the young talent that's around in some of these teams, this guy Abreu for the White Sox, any talk of Luke Voit being considered, for the MVP, again, in quotes, is ridiculous. I mean, if you look at Abreu's numbers, they're just off the charts. And, Luke Voit had a great season. Let's see if he can do this in the playoffs. But hitting 278, that ain't going to get it done. This guy Abreu clearly has the numbers. And I think Bieber, Cy Young in the American League, and I think Yu Darvish for the Cubs, even though they got knocked out. He pitched a great game yesterday, but they still lost in the playoffs. I think he was the best pitcher in the National League this season. So let's see how that pans out. But it's pretty good and exciting baseball. Looking forward to seeing how it shakes up, and we're going to get down to the Final Four in a week, right? Looking forward to it. That's happening. So let's move on to the NFL. And the NFL is in week 4. And, there's been some problems with the Tennessee Titans and the COVID, the pandemic. It seems to have made an appearance, enough to cancel the Steelers-Titans game this week. So you knew that could kind of happen. They're not in that bubble like the NHL and the NBA, so there was always that chance, and it did happen. Could possibly happen again as the weather gets a little colder. So, but there was a great matchup. Well, at least it was termed as a great matchup, right? The Ravens and Chiefs was on Monday Night Football. But again, you can't say enough about this kid, Patrick Mahomes. As talented as Lamar Jackson is, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't proven that he can win like Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes does whatever he has to do. I know Steve was touting last week, about the Chiefs could possibly win 3 or 4 of the next 6 Super Bowls. I mean, the way it looks pretty promising if he stays healthy and so forth. But he's some game changer. He really is. And we'll talk locally. We got the Jets and the Giants, and both of them are absolute garbage right now. And it's ugly. It's going to be a long season. So it looks like the battle for the number 1 pick is clearly on. The New York side of things, they're all screaming for Adam Gase. And, my answer is, what'd you think you were getting when you signed Adam Gase to be the coach? And, I've never been a big Sam Darnold fan. And he's not playing anywhere near the 3rd pick in the draft status that he is. This is his 3rd year. I mean, he had a great run in the game, in this boring, ugly game against the Denver Broncos. But that was just some bad tackling. But overall, they're a mess. And the Giants, they're a mess. And again, I don't jump off bandwagons. Like I said, I still have a lot of confidence in Daniel Jones. I think he's going to mature. It's only his 2nd year in the league, but he is turning the ball over. But they can't stop anybody on defense, and they can't put up points and turn the ball over constantly. So the Giants, they're in trouble. So I guess, the battle for the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes is underway. And it certainly looks as though I don't see them going anywhere. Obviously, they're going to probably both be 0-4 by the end of tomorrow. And, so we're looking at a 2-14 season, 3-12 season, whatever it is, 3-13. Ugly. It's been ugly for years in New York. So, but there are a lot of good teams. The Seattle Seahawks and Russell Wilson, I tell you. I'm not a Pete Carroll guy. I think he's too rah-rah for me, the NFL, style of coaching like it's a college team, but he's got Russell Wilson, and they are good, and he is talented. And my old philosophy is I don't bet against Russell Wilson on anything. So he's going to take them places. He's having that kind of an MVP caliber year. But he's just talented, and but him and Mahomes are just the two premier quarterbacks. And I know a lot of people say Aaron Rodgers, and I think he's awesome. He's going to Canton, Ohio. He's been a Hall of Famer. But I think when it comes down to it, if I put him up against either one of those two, I'm going with the other two. Like I said, of all of the years he's been there, he should have more Super Bowls than just one. But he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. But from an NFL perspective, you got two of the just most dynamic quarterbacks in the game, and it's very exciting to watch. Very exciting to watch. So I'm going to give you my two picks of the week. Again, I don't play the point spread game. I leave that to pick dogs. So my two games are, and I'm not a buyer in Cleveland yet. I don't think they've beaten anybody. I think Dallas is on the ropes. So I'm going to take the Cowboys over the Browns. Cowboys need this game. And if they're going to turn their season around, they got to beat these teams that they should beat, and they should beat them. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to take the Rams over the Giants. I think it's... I've always said I really... One of the biggest turnarounds in sports from a talent perspective was Jared Goff. Some people haven't bought into this yet, but he puts up big numbers. They're playing in their new stadium, and they got Aaron Donald on the other side of the ball. And he is just a force that can't be stopped. And with the offensive line the Giants have, I don't see them stopping them in any way, shape, or form. So those are my two picks. I've been pretty good this year so far. So do with it as you please. All right, so we're going to stick with football a little bit because, from a college football perspective, that's underway, but there was a major upset. And now, when I look about it, and I want to bring it up, because LSU got pasted by Mississippi State at home, which is something that you don't usually see. But what a game. And say what you want about this Mike Leach. I mean, he can't seem to stay in one place, but... he's the college version of Air Coryell. He puts up big numbers in the air. And, they got KJ Costello, no relation to Jay Costello from Niagara University. But they got him from Stanford, transferred from Stanford, came in, threw for over 600 yards against LSU on the road. So this Mike Leach, he's kind of... eccentric, if you will, but he knows the game. Seems to win wherever he goes. That was a big upset, and a lot of people are thinking, okay, well now Mississippi State will have a big letdown against the Arkansas Razorbacks. I see them taking it to them just as much as they took it to LSU, and I don't see a letdown this week at all. Sorry about that. I know I got an Arkansas fan, Walter Hahn, down in Arkansas, but they're not going to beat these guys. But I think the biggest matchup this week is Auburn, Georgia. And, we've been talking about Georgia being on the cusp forever. And but if they're going to make a move, they got to beat a team like Auburn, right? That they have to win those kind of big games. And that's what they seem to come up short a little bit. But I think that's the marquee game. I see Alabama, and they should have an easy time of it. Clemson should have an easy time this week. So that's the game kind of you want to watch, and I'm going to watch. And it's sticking with football. It's high school football, and as we told you on the previous show, New York and Connecticut, those high school football seasons are not happening. But in New Jersey, they are happening. And, of course, there's restrictions. So the marquee game, again, and not just because I'm a homie, but it's one of the premier games of the season already in high school football is St. Joe's versus Bergen Catholic. And I just had an opportunity to talk to one of the St. Joe's coaches last night who said, on this field, there is potentially between both teams like 10 to 15 Division I level players. And, that's what you really want to see. You love to see the talent in high school, and then you get to follow them and watch them to go into Division I, and ultimately, and a lot of these guys, they make the NFL. So that's a marquee game in northern New Jersey today. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, there's only a limited number of tickets can be seen, but it will be streamed on NJ.com today if you want to catch that game and watch some awesome high school talent. And we're going to keep you posted on high school football in New Jersey because it's the only game in town right now for high school football. So looking forward to that. So let's just move on real quick because Michael Garvey, one of our listeners from Naples, kindly pointed out we didn't mention the French Open. And I said, well, it's hard because the games are, in the middle of the night. It's like watching the British Open in golf, right? In the United States, it's big time difference. So you get, unless you want to set your clock for 3 a.m. to watch it. But I don't think there's a lot to watch on the men's side. Rafael Nadal, his record at the French Open, I know he's going for his 12th French Open title, but it's just, I don't see anybody, not even Djokovic, who's still in it. But on the men's side, I think it's clear. This guy Nadal owns the French Open, and he's going to win the French Open. And again, on the women's side, we talked about it. Serena Williams withdrew from an injury. A couple of the top contenders opted out because of the pandemic. So the women's side, wide open. And again, it's been that way for a while, and it's going to be that way going forward on the women's side. A lot of good young talent. But on the men's side, Nadal's still at the top of his game, and he just doesn't lose the French Open. So he's going to win that. And Mike, apologies for not mentioning that last week, but we're mentioning it this week. And I wanted to mention, because it was also pointed out, and I forgot to bring it up on last week's show, was Bryson DeChambeau's win for the U.S. Open title in golf. And clear winner, ran away with it. That sets him up. So we still have the Masters to come. Masters in November, believe it or not. So that's going to start happening. But I wanted to mention that because it was a clear route. He's very unorthodox. He's a very unique personality, but he is a good golfer, and he did win the U.S. Open. And I had Rory McIlroy winning it. And again, I came up short in that pick, but we'll talk about the Masters as we get a little bit closer to it because it's being played in November, so we got some time. But I wanted to mention that we didn't bring him up, and we certainly should have, because that's a prestigious trophy in golf. And if I had my bugle or my trumpet, I would play the start of a horse race today, right? Today is the final leg of the Triple Crown, in a different order, obviously, but the Preakness is being run. And unfortunately, this year, we're not going to have a Triple Crown winner, and Tiz the Law is not going to be running in the Preakness today, but I'm going to give you my picks. I had Authentic to come in. I gave it a great race and just edged out Tiz the Law in the Derby. But so I can't not stay with him. So I'm gonna give him my 3 horses, and Authentic earned the right to be one of the favorites today. But it's also it's got quite a challenge today, and Art Collector is running, who did not run in the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown, but he is running. He's a great horse. Watched him run up at Saratoga on television. He's a classy horse, and I like him. And I'm going to give you my 3rd pick is going to be, my round out the field. I like Swiss Skydiver, and it's a filly, and she's I think she can stand up to here. So if Authentic and Art Collector, they should battle it out for 1-2. But I look for Swiss Skydiver to come in the money. I know a lot of people like 1,000 words, but I'm not sold on that. So I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. But it's it is unbelievable that this is the 3rd leg of the Triple Crown, and it's not the Belmont, because that always had the allure of being the 1.5 miles. But we don't have a Triple Crown candidate this year anyway, so Riders Up. I'm looking forward to watching that. That's on this afternoon around 4:30, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. And I wanted to bring that up for sure because it is the Triple Crown, and it's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle with all of the other events that have been rescheduled and the major sports taking prominence in that. So, but the Preakness is being run today, and it should be a good race. A lot of good horses in that race. So let's see how that pans out. And our final segment, of course, is sponsored by Di Filippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York. And again, Carmela's been working, doing, the GoFundMe for some charities and so forth. So not only do they make good product, but they're also a pillar of the community and a loyal supporter of the show, and we certainly do thank them. So, our notable passings. And, unfortunately, we normally end our segment with this, but there was one that just happened, and it was Bob Gibson. And I know a lot of our younger listeners may not understand how awesome this guy was. I only got to see him not in his prime, when he won the Cy Young in 64, he won the Cy Young in 67, 2-time World Series champion, and just a dominant pitcher. And the year he had in 1968 has been unmatched, will never be matched. 13 complete games and 13 shutouts and a 1.12 earned run average. And he was so dominant that they actually lowered the pitching mound because they thought he had such an advantage because he threw so hard and was so intimidating. And there was an excellent story that was referenced by Tim Kirchin, real solid baseball guy, and of course, he mentioned how brilliant Bob Gibson was, but he told a very funny story about Hank Aaron and telling a young Dusty Baker, when Dusty Baker came into the league, a story. He says, you get up there, you don't look at Bob Gibson, you don't talk to Bob Gibson, and if Bob Gibson hits you, just go to first base. Don't charge the mound because he will kick your ass. Which I've been laughing since I heard that story. That's a great baseball reference. But you know what? Bob Gibson was a class act off the field as well. He was just so intense on the field. And we just lost Tom Seaver, and now we just lost another great in Major League Baseball pitching lore, Bob Gibson. 84, and we actually mentioned Bob Gibson a few shows ago because we knew he was ailing and he did succumb to pancreatic cancer. But what a figure! I can't tell you that I really enjoyed looking at some highlights of him and how intimidating he was. And but he was just the opposite off the field. He was a class act. So the Cardinals with Lou Brock and Bob Gibson lost some big players in Major League Baseball. sticking with baseball, there was a guy, and that's where I'm coming back to the Dodgers-Yankees rivalry, because he played for both. Jay Johnstone, kind of known as a wise guy prankster in the clubhouse. Didn't have great numbers throughout his career, but played 19 seasons in the major leagues. Pretty much played for everybody, but he was a good ball player, and he won a championship with he won two. He won one with the Dodgers and one with the Yankees. And like I said, those are kind of players that sometimes fly under the radar, but they always seem to be on the team that's going places and so forth. So that must say something about him. But he was a good ball player. He was a good pinch hitter for sure. I've seen him beat the Yankees, and I've seen him help the Yankees. But he played for a lot of different teams, and he passed away. Really good ball player, solid ball player. And before we close out, there were two from the world of entertainment that passed away, in particular music, right? Helen Reddy. And I know Steve had something all lined up to talk about Helen Reddy. I'm not going to use that. We're going to save it. But she had a lot of hits. She was well respected in the music industry, and Helen Reddy passed away at age 78. But a lot of hits, and that's tough to make it in the music business, and she did it. No doubt about that. And also, from the world of music, Mac Davis. And Mac Davis, not only did he have his own string of hits, but he wrote a lot of songs for a lot of big artists, like Elvis Presley, like he wrote In the Ghetto and so forth. So, just a brilliant music mind, the ability to write music as well as perform music. And, he was hot in the 70s. He was all over the place. He was on every variety show and so forth. And from our football fans' perspective, I'm sure they remember him with Nick Nolte in North Dallas 40, which was kind of the movie version of Peter Gent's book, North Dallas 40. Good movie. But he was not only was he a musician and a skilled songwriter, but he delved in. We'll forget his turn in the remake of The Sting 2, which, of course, would never fly because Sting was one of the greatest movies of all time. And unfortunately, even Jackie Gleason was involved in The Sting 2. It was a horrible movie. But Mac Davis, he was also 78 years old, and we certainly wanted to make note of his passing as well. So listen, I'm solo here this week, so I know there's a lot going on. So I'm glad you guys could join us this week, and Steve will certainly be back with us next week. But listen, enjoy the baseball, the football, the basketball, I guess, tennis, and watch the Preakness today. You got a lot of good horses. Should be a fun race to watch. And thanks for joining us, everybody. And Sports with Mono and Mono will be back next week. But please feel free to send us an email if you have some comments on some of the things we talk about. Our email is sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. And looking forward to hearing from you guys. Mr. Walsh, one of our loyal supporters, must be on vacation because we haven't gotten an email from him, James. Looking forward to getting one from you this week. So everybody enjoy your week. Stay healthy. The pandemic's not over. Unfortunately, it's not over. And as the cool weather starts to creep in, let's hope we don't see a spike. And everybody stay healthy. And we'll talk to you guys next week. So thanks for joining us. Have a good week. Bye.